Turn off the news, close the papers. They want you to believe that this is the end of the world. They are selling you fear, whispering that the darkness is finally swallowing the light. But they are wrong. They do not know the ancient secret hidden in the quiet, sun-baked hills of Italy. The world is not ending, my friends, it is healing. And the pain, the confusion, and the chaos we feel right now is just the fever breaking. Welcome back. For so long we have gathered here to look at the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. We have spoken of warnings and shadows. But today, I want to share a legend of pure light. A story that has been whispered among the oldest monks in the monasteries of Europe, passed down from a humble friar who bore the miraculous wounds of Christ. Yes, we speak of the lore surrounding the beloved Padre Pio. But today, we do not focus on the terrifying warnings of darkness that you usually hear. Today, we uncover the beautiful hidden legend of the great purification, the promise of the golden dawn that is waiting for us just beyond the long night. According to a beautifully kept secret tradition, a hidden letter was once dictated by the mystic in the quiet hours of the night. In it, he did not just foresee the chaos of our modern times. He explained exactly why it had to happen. The legend says he saw the earth not as a dying planet but as a sick patient, and he looked upon this patient with the infinite love of a father. For centuries, the legend tells us, humanity had been consuming spiritual poisons, the poisons of endless greed, bitter hatred, cold isolation, and the deep emptiness of walking away from the divine. We built towering cities of glass and steel that scraped the sky, but our hearts grew cold and distant. We invented machines to connect our voices across vast oceans, but we stopped listening to our own neighbors. We forgot how to sit in silence. We forgot the simple blessings of a shared meal, the beauty of a sunrise, and the sacredness of family. The earth, the lore suggests, absorbed this spiritual sickness. It carried the heavy burden of our collective sadness until it could simply take no more. What we are experiencing in the world right now, the deep confusion, the societal storms, the sudden breaking down of old, corrupt systems, is not a punishment from an angry creator. According to this beautiful legend, it is a spiritual immune response. It is the great fever. Think of a child who catches a terrible illness. When the body fights off a deep infection, the temperature must rise. The patient shivers, they sweat, they toss and turn in the dark, and they feel as though the end is near. It is frightening to watch. The body must burn to purify the blood and kill the virus. The prophecy claims that our world is currently in the absolute grip of this fever. The old systems of the world, the ones built on deceit, selfishness, and pride, are crumbling simply because they cannot survive the rising temperature of human awakening. They are melting away like ice under a relentless sun. The humble friar allegedly wept when he saw our specific time, but they were not tears of despair. They were tears of profound hope and overwhelming love. He knew that this generation, you watching this right now, your children and your grandchildren, were chosen for the most difficult but glorious task in human history. You were chosen to be the bridge. You are the generation tasked with walking through the final days of the shadow to open the doors to the era of peace. But the legend speaks of a coming moment, a brief period of profound universal silence where the deafening noise of the modern world will suddenly stop. They call it the hush of the heavens. It is said that during this transition, the fever will reach its peak and every soul will be given a choice. How do we survive this great fever? How do we protect our minds, our hearts, and our families when the world outside our windows seems to be shaking apart? The ancient text does not leave us without a map. It offers a very specific, beautiful set of instructions for those it calls the Keepers of the Dawn. In the next part, I will reveal the steps the legend says we must take to weather this final storm. It is a secret of survival that requires no money, no hidden bunkers, and no weapons. It only requires a key that you already hold in your hand. How does a tree survive the most brutal, freezing winter? It does not fight the cold. It does not panic when its beautiful green leaves wither and fall to the frozen earth. To the untrained eye, the tree looks dead. Its branches are bare, stripped of all their former glory. But the wise gardener knows the truth. The tree is not dying. It is drawing all of its life force deep down into its roots, hiding its warmth beneath the soil, waiting patiently for the sun to return. According to this beautiful hidden legend of the great mystic, humanity is currently in the grip of this deep spiritual winter. We are watching the leaves of our modern society, the endless distractions, the superficial wealth, the illusions of permanent comfort, falling away. It can be a terrifying sight, but the prophecy whispers a comforting truth. You are not the falling leaves, you are the roots. The lore specifically speaks to those who have lived long enough to understand the turning of the seasons. It speaks to the grandmothers and grandfathers, the elders of families, the quiet souls who have watched the world change and who still remember the value of a simple, honest life. The legend calls you the keepers of the dawn. It is said that when the great fever reaches its breaking point, the world will not need more politicians, more technology, or more shouting voices on television screens. The world will desperately need anchors. It will need people who are not afraid of the dark, because they carry the light inside them. So, what are the instructions left behind in these whispered traditions? How do the keepers of the dawn protect their homes when the winter winds howl? The first instruction is to simply stop running. The modern world wants you to live in a state of constant, breathless panic. They want you glued to the bad news, vibrating with anxiety about a tomorrow you cannot control. The legend says, turn it off. Disconnect from the artificial storm. Your greatest weapon against the chaos of this era is your own internal peace. When the young people in your family, your children and grandchildren, look at the world and feel overwhelmed by fear, they must be able to look at you and see an unshakable calm. You must be the quiet harbor in their storm. The second instruction is to build a fortress, but not one of bricks and steel. The friar's legend speaks of fortifying the home with the warmth of prayer, the power of forgiveness, and the simple act of gathering together. It is said that in the final moments of the great fever, the only safe places on earth will be the homes where love is spoken louder than fear. You do not need to stockpile mountains of supplies to survive this transition. You need to stockpile grace. You need to light a literal and spiritual candle in your living room and declare that shadows have no power there. The legend then describes a mysterious event known as the hush of the heavens. It is not a day of destruction, but a day of profound cosmic pause. It is said that for a brief moment, the relentless grinding machinery of the world will simply stop. The deafening noise of humanity's endless arguments will fall silent. During this hush, every man, woman, and child will suddenly feel the presence of something far greater than themselves. It is described as a moment of absolute clarity, where the illusions of the modern world evaporate and the soul sees itself exactly as it is. For those who have lived their lives in cruelty and greed, this silence will be terrifying. But for the keepers of the dawn, for those who have tried, despite their flaws, to live with kindness and faith, this silence will feel like a warm embrace. It will be the moment the fever finally breaks. It will be the deep, refreshing breath a patient takes when they wake up in the morning and realize they are finally healed. The winter is almost over, my friends. The roots have held strong. But what happens when the snow finally melts? What does the earth look like when the great purification is complete? In the final part of our story, we will look at the breathtaking vision of the era of peace. We will describe the restored world that the legend promises is waiting for us, a world where the air is clean, where families are reunited, and where the heavy burdens of this age are lifted forever. It is a vision of hope so profound, it will change the way you look at tomorrow. Imagine waking up from the darkest, coldest night of your life, not to the sound of sirens or breaking news, but to the sound of absolute, profound peace. The great fever has finally broken. The spiritual winter that has gripped humanity for generations has melted away. According to the deeply moving legend whispered by the mystics, this is the glorious dawn of the era of peace, a time so radiant that it will make all the sufferings of our current age feel like nothing more than a fading dream. The storm has passed and the earth has been washed entirely clean. The ancient lore promises that when the hush of the heavens concludes, those who held on to their faith, those who refused to surrender their hearts to bitterness and fear, will step out of their homes into a world transformed. It is said that the very air will feel different, lighter, cleaner, vibrating with a divine warmth. The toxic machinery of the old world, the endless cycles of consumption, debt, and conflict, will simply cease to exist, replaced not by new politicians, but by a profound, universal awakening of the human spirit. The legend speaks of a time when the heavy, invisible chains of anxiety that we all carry today will just fall away. You will look at your neighbors, and instead of seeing strangers to fear, you will see brothers and sisters. The artificial divisions that separated humanity will dissolve in the face of an overwhelming, shared understanding of our true, sacred purpose. Think of your grandchildren. Think of the world you have always desperately wanted to leave for them. The mystics describe an age where children will grow up without the shadow of war hanging over their heads. They will not be taught to hate or to compete ruthlessly for survival. They will walk in harmony with nature, because the earth itself will be completely restored. The prophecy speaks of barren lands blooming with unprecedented beauty, of rivers running crystal clear, and of the soil yielding miraculous abundance without the need for toxic chemicals or endless toil. The planet, having fought off its great fever, will return to its Eden-like state, a magnificent garden prepared for a healed humanity. It is said that in this era of peace, poverty will become a distant memory, a dark chapter in history books that the youth will barely comprehend because the hearts of men will be so full of charity that no one will be allowed to go without. The humble friar's legend assures us that this is not a fairy tale. It is the absolute, guaranteed destination of human history. The Creator did not bring us this far to let the story end in fire and ashes. He brought us this far to teach us the ultimate value of love, and the pain of these current times is merely the labor pain of a new, breathtaking reality being born. This is why you must not despair. This is why you, the keepers of the dawn, must stand tall today. When you feel the weight of the world pressing down on your shoulders, you must remember that you are holding the line for the greatest golden age humanity has ever known. Your prayers, your quiet endurance, your refusal to give in to the anger of the modern world, these are the invisible bricks building the foundation of tomorrow's paradise. You were placed here, at this exact moment in history, for a profound reason. You are the resilient bridge between the world of sorrow and the world of joy. When the era of peace finally blossoms, it will be said that it was the grandmothers and grandfathers, the quiet believers and the steadfast souls of this tumultuous generation who carried the light through the darkest valley. You are the silent heroes of the coming dawn. Do not let the screen tell you to be afraid. Look out your window, look up at the sky, and know that the morning is coming and it is more beautiful than you can possibly imagine. If this message of hope resonates with your soul, if you refuse to surrender to the fear of this age, then you are already a part of this great awakening. Subscribe to this channel and join our community of the Keepers of the Dawn. We are building a sanctuary of truth and hope here, an archive of the light that no darkness can extinguish. Share this video with someone who needs comfort today. Tell them the winter is almost over. And always remember, no matter how loud the storm rages outside, the fever is breaking, the dawn is inevitable, and the best days of humanity are just ahead.